There's a Toyota you've probably seen online. You've seen it in travel videos. You've seen it crossing deserts, climbing mountains, surviving wars, floods, and abuse that would destroy most SUVs. It's rugged. It's reliable. It's loved across Asia, the Middle East, Africa, Australia, and South America. And yet, if you walk into a Toyota dealership in the United States, you cannot buy it. Not because Toyota doesn't want to sell it. Not because Americans wouldn't buy it. But because of a decision made more than 60 years ago. Over chickens. This is the story of the Toyota Fortuner. The Toyota HiLux. And the hidden rule that quietly decides what Americans are allowed to drive. This is the truth behind the 25% tariff you were never meant to think about. Welcome back to ClassicDrive Stories. Where cars aren't just machines. They're clues. Clues about history, economics, power, and the systems that shape what ends up in your driveway. If you've ever wondered why the car market looks the way it does, you're in the right place. Let's start with the obvious question. Why can Americans buy a Toyota Tacoma, but not a Toyota HiLux? Why does Toyota sell the Fortuner globally, but keeps it out of the US? These aren't obscure vehicles. The HiLux is one of the most famous pickup trucks on Earth. The Fortuner is its SUV sibling, body-on-frame, diesel-powered, globally trusted. They're everything Americans say they want. So why are they missing? The answer isn't design. It isn't emissions. It isn't safety. It's politics. To understand this, we have to go back to the 1960s. Post-World War II, the US was exporting chicken to Europe at massive scale. American poultry was cheap, efficient, and everywhere. European farmers were furious. So European countries responded with tariffs on American chicken imports. The US government didn't take that lightly. And instead of responding with diplomacy, it responded with retaliation. In 1964, the US placed a 25% tariff on imports of light trucks, cargo vans, commercial vehicles. This retaliation became known as the chicken tax. It was meant to hurt European automakers. But it did something else entirely. It reshaped the American car market for generations. A 25% tariff is not a small fee. On a $40,000 vehicle, that's $10,000 added instantly. That doesn't just reduce profit. It kills viability. Manufacturers faced a choice. Build trucks inside the US, or don't sell them at all. And that's where the American truck ecosystem was born. The chicken tax didn't just block foreign trucks. It protected domestic ones. Ford, Chevrolet, Ram, and later, Toyota. That's why the Tacoma exists. Toyota builds the Tacoma in America, for America. To avoid the tariff. But the HiLux? It's built globally. Bringing it to the US would mean paying that 25%. So Toyota made a decision. Not because the HiLux isn't good enough, but because the system makes it uneconomical. The Fortuner is built on the HiLux platform. Body-on-frame. Proven diesel engines. Designed for places where roads disappear. It thrives in markets where reliability matters more than luxury. Maintenance access matters more than screens. Vehicles must survive decades, not leases. In many countries, the Fortuner is what Americans think a 4Runner is. But here's the irony. The Fortuner would compete directly with 4Runner, Land Cruiser Prado, mid-size SUVs made in the US. And competition inside a protected market is expensive. People often say, Toyota should just sell it and let people decide. That's not how it works. The moment Toyota imports the Fortuner as is, 25% tariff applies. Pricing skyrockets. Sales volume collapses. And worse, it cannibalizes their own US-built products. From a business standpoint, it makes no sense. So instead, Toyota creates US-specific vehicles. Tacoma, Tundra, 4Runner. Different designs. Different engines. Different priorities. Not because Americans want them, but because the system demands them. Here's where it gets interesting. Some manufacturers have tried to work around the chicken tax by importing vehicles without beds, importing as passenger vehicles, assembling final parts inside the US. One famous example involved Ford importing transit vans without seats, then installing them domestically. Creative? Yes. Efficient? Barely. Legal? Technically. But it shows how powerful this tariff still is. This is the uncomfortable question. Consumers? Not really. They get fewer choices. Higher prices. Less global variety. Manufacturers? Some. US-based production benefits. Domestic jobs are protected. But innovation? That often suffers. Because protected markets don't need to compete as hard. Right now, trucks and SUVs dominate US sales. And yet, prices are rising. Options are shrinking. Reliability complaints are increasing. Meanwhile, globally proven vehicles remain locked out. Not because they're unsafe. Not because they're outdated. But because of a rule older than most drivers. Most people think car markets are shaped by taste. They're not. They're shaped by tariffs, emissions laws, safety regulations, trade agreements. The chicken tax is one of the most powerful, and least understood, examples. It quietly decides what gets built, where it gets built, and what you're allowed to buy. The reason you can't buy a Toyota Fortuner in America has nothing to do with what Americans want. It has everything to do with what the system allows. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Because suddenly, the entire truck market makes sense. So next time you see a Fortuner online, or a HiLux surviving something absurd, remember, it's not missing because it failed. It's missing because it threatens a protected market. If stories like this change how you see cars, this channel is built for you, because behind every vehicle, there's a story the brochure will never tell. I'll see you in the next one.